Bonjour et bienvenue sur un nouvel épisode de On peut le dire. Aujourd'hui, on va regarder les prononciations de la lettre I. Let's go through the color code first. So in red, you're going to see the graphemes, which are the different spellings of various sounds. Graphemes based on I. In blue, I'm going to put example words, and in purple, I'm going to put the IPA code. I will group similar sounds together with orange, so similar groupings. Similar groups will be in orange, and my brown will be the bullet points. Let's start with the letter I on its own. For example, in the word ici, which means here, ici, then the sound we make is I, which is this, I. You could also have it followed by an I, so I-E. For instance, vie, which means life. La vie is life, so we have the same sound, I. We could also have it with a silent consonant afterwards. For instance, in the verb phrase je lis, so you have IS, but the final S is not heard. That also makes an E sound. So these three make an E sound. Okay? Another case where you're going to say I is if you have I with a circumflex, also known as a little hat. So for instance, the main word where you might see that will be île, une île, which is an island, and we also need to say I here. The next one is going to be a bit of an irritating one. I'm going to offset it a bit just to show it's a bit weird. So normally if you have I-double-L-E at the end of a word, in theory that will make a new sound. You need to be mindful. The only time that's going to make an il sound is in the word ville, which could have an S if you were talking about several towns. Ville, town, or city, if you say grande ville, that's going to end up making an il sound. So this is the one time when you're going to say il for this spelling. Otherwise, we move on to another category, which is going to be a category where we have a lot of I. Okay? And so the most obvious example for that is this spelling. Again, could have an S at the end for plural. And so, for example, we have the word fille, which means girl or daughter. And that's going to create an I sound, which I've covered in another video before, so you've already had some resources on that. So you can see that we still have an E sound, but it's followed by Y, E. Now, I'm going to put a clear box. I said I would do clouds, but I'm trying for a box. Clear box around these, because they all have an E sound. And then this still has that E sound related to it. And here we start morphing slowly into something slightly different. And I'm going to run out of space, so let's move that up. So we are then going to move on to all of the ones that end up having a Y sound. This one here, Y, like the end of I. And actually, we're going to start with I. Again, this is something you've seen in another video if you're watching the series in order. So you've seen that A-I-L or A-I-double-L-E makes an I sound most of the time. So as a horse rider, my most common example for that is paille, which means straw, and so that's going to make that I sound. Okay, and then another variation which we've already seen before is your EIL, again with possibly extra LE, maybe even S or NT. For example, I think last time we had that, I used the word réveil, which is alarm clock or waking up. The sound is getting worse and worse and worse. Oh, la, 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 la. And so that's an A sound. A. Another option you may meet that will have a similar ending with a Y sound will be E-U-I-L, possibly double L-E, possibly with an S, or even NT, but let's just call it. For instance, écureuil, which means squirrel. Écureuil, œil at the end. So that makes your œil sound. You could also have it spelled like we did in, I can't remember which video now. You could have it spelled like this in the noun œil for eye, and that's the same sound, œil. So the next one, which is also using y, is if you see O-U-I, double L-E. And then this, for example, in the word fouille, une fouille, which is an excavation or a dig, you know, in archaeology, une fouille. So here we say ouille, which is symbolized like this in EIP, A, so fouille. You could have, again, an extra S, or you could have ENT if it were conjugated, if it were used as a verb. This is it for all the y ones, so we can close off that box. Close. Perfect. Now, you might have realized, oh, there's a pattern here, and basically if you have IL, like vowel IL, it's going to be a y sound. Except, no, it isn't, because you could also find O-I-L at the end of a word, in which case we'll say wal. For example, poil. And poil means hair, as in a hair on your skin, or it could be about a cat's coat or a dog's coat, or even a horse's coat, like fur type of thing. Un poil. And so that's going to sound wa. With the L, it's going to be wal. Wal. So you need to be mindful with that. It's so nice when it's not shredding anymore, isn't it? I love it. Love me some calm and quiet. Let's revisit some elements we probably have seen before. So we'll revisit the vowel plus I element, I think. I thought it was weird. So the next one that we are going to revise, we've already seen that before, is if you see AI, for example, mai, that's an A sound, mai, like the month of May. And then if you see AI and a consonant, in theory, you should open it up. In practice, this is slowly falling out, I think, unless it's a regional thing. I know in the north we don't tend to open up much of our AI plus consonant endings, but I know it's supposed to happen, so I don't know if it's just something we don't do in the north or if it's something that's slowly disappearing from the French usage. Next we have something similar happening with EI, which again we've seen before. Wrong color. EI, we've seen before, for example, in reine, which means queen, queen, and that's going to sound like reine, mais. It's weird. I feel like it's forced when I open it up, but it's just because I'm not used to opening it up. We could also have, as we've covered here, sort of OI, which will make a wa sound. For example, toi for you, toi, toi, mon toi, 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 mon fou, mon roi. So another option is roi for king. The other option you might have is UI, for instance, in lui, for him or her, depending on context. Lui, lui. So that's a lui sound. And finally, for this special team, we are going to have OUI, which you are probably familiar with from the word oui, which means yes. So my example word is the same as the grapheme itself. I think I'm straying into a territory that's not quite just grapheme, because technically oui is split into two graphemes. OU is for ou and then I is for I. However, in this case we consider the OU to be a half vowel, a semi-vowel, so it's going to be shown like this, or a semi-consonant, depending on how you want to see it, glass half full or half empty. And so it's a bit of a dodgy territory, so I'm going to just use it. So that's for all of the ones where you have just one vowel sound or semi-vowel sound and then the I. And next we're going to look at the interaction between I and N and M. If you see I followed by M, as in important, we are going to pronounce that un, which is a nasal sound. Have a look at my nasal vowel video if you're a little bit unsure. If I remember it, I will link it in the video. If I don't remember, just explore the playlist, it's all there. IN makes the same sound, so for example, intéressant, interesting. I'm sure you guessed important means important. Same thing, we have an sound, so for these two, important, intéressant. You may also find the grapheme AIN, which will make the same sound. For example, pain, bread, very important if you go to France. Pain, pain, so un sound. You could also see EIN at the end of a word. So these have to be like the last strong vowel sound of a word. If there's an E after that, then it's going to follow something like reine. Okay, but if there isn't another vowel sound after, then it's going to be un. So my example for that was rein, which means kidney, rein. Same un sound. And finally, the last case for today is a little bit odd, possibly. So we've already seen in a previous video that if you have EN, it should be en. However, there is one exception to that. It's if there's an I in front of it. For instance, bien, which means good or well, and chien. So because there's an I before the EN, it needs to make a yin sound. IPA code. So it's going to be, it's almost using that y from earlier. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to write it like this. Maybe it should be like this, but it's the same. It's a yin sound. Okay, so now we have the whole overview. We have the letter I, and that contributes to all of these sounds. So the main one would be I, which is how we say this letter in French anyway, I. if you have I-double-L-E, there is one case in which it's going to be il, vil. Otherwise, you're going to say I. We might have I, a, œil, œil, ouille. We might have wal. We might have e, wa, oui, oui. And then you might have un with all of these options. And you might have ya here. And that is it for the letter I in French. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if it was or if it wasn't in the comments below. Ask any question you may have which you think I might help you answer. Like if you like this video, share and subscribe to help me out, and have a lovely day. Bye, and don't forget, on peut le dire. Les papillons en l'air et les fourmis par terre. Chacun est à sa place. Il n'y a pas de mystère, sauf toi, toi, mon toi.